a legendary dragon was reborn in the body of a human, but he tries to hide his epic powers from everyone. I'm Nashi Recaps, and let's take a look at this anime that was recently released. At the beginning of everything, a group of humans attacks a legendary dragon, who, in turn, doesn't understand why the humans are trying to kill him, as he has never harmed them. On the contrary, on several occasions, he had even been an ally of humanity. Without receiving any justification, the dragon resigns himself and surrenders his soul to the Reapers, hoping they will take it to the underworld, where he can finally achieve his eternal rest. After this, he reincarnates as a baby, and his new mother names him Dolan, introducing him to her family. Years later, when Dolan is about 16, he is approached by a girl named Ire, who comes to him concerned because he seems distant. Dolan reassures her, saying everything is fine, and begins talking about Verum, the place where he was born as a dragon. Verum is a small village on the northern border of the continental Deercrest Kingdom, where agriculture is the main economic activity. Thus, Dolan gets up every day to work in the fields, making a living as a farmer. Although he is only 16, he explains that in the village, people are considered adults at that age, and it's normal for them to live alone, like him, who left home the previous year. When meeting his brother to go fishing, Dolan is asked about the swamp he was supposed to investigate the next day. He explains that, about a month ago, the lizards disappeared from the swamp, and something needs to be done about it. His brother, however, says that this should be the garrison's job, not the villagers', reaffirming that there's no reason for Dolan to go there by himself. Dolan, on the other hand, reminds him that Captain Ban and the others are already busy protecting the village, so he feels it's his duty to help. Later, he meets Albert and Melita, who briefly talk about the training they will give to the village children. But Dolan soon says goodbye and heads back home. As he reflects on the village's problems, he considers that there are many monsters and bandits around, limiting the soldiers' actions, as they cannot solve all of Verum's issues, given that their military power is weaker than that of the cities. Therefore, the villagers often have to protect themselves. While doing chores at home, Air appears and calls him to the magic training they had agreed to do that day. Upon reaching the designated place, Dolan demonstrates his magic, impressing Ire. His tutor praises him, saying his offensive magic is truly perfect, but Dolan attributes this success to her excellent teachings. She then decides to start practicing healing magic, an area in which he struggles more. After the lesson, Dolan walks through the village again when he is approached by the village chief, who introduces Christina, a noble warrior who will be staying in the village for some time. The chief explains that the girl is a young noblewoman and asks Dolan to treat her with the utmost respect. After greeting each other, the chief bids farewell and takes Christina with him, while Dolan returns to his agricultural work. On the way, he comments on the risk of freezing to death in the village during the harsh winter, comparing it to the summer, which is extremely hot. Reflecting on his current life and the life he led as a dragon, Dolan concludes that humans indeed live in a hostile environment. Upon arriving at his parents' house, he is welcomed by Marco, his younger brother, who tells the parents about the visit. They are happy, and they all sit down to have dinner together. During the meal, Dolan's father comments that living alone can be relaxing, but also lonely at times, suggesting that Dolan look for a wife who can cook well, just as his brother did. Dolan says that this advice is something Marco also gives him from time to time, but he prefers to enjoy the single life a bit longer. The father also brings up the swamp problem that Dolan plans to solve the next day. Hearing this, the mother becomes worried, as the place is far away and the road is dangerous. Dolan assures her that he doesn't intend to take risks, saying that he will only take a look at the swamp. The father, in turn, says that Dolan is already an adult and doesn't plan to interfere in his decisions, but asks him to return safely so as not to worry his mother. Dolan promises to come back and tell them everything he experiences at the site. The next day, he is approached by a crowd, including a nun named Leticia, who approaches to give him a blessing from the goddess. His magic tutor, on the other hand, reveals that she has a bad feeling about the journey and asks him to be careful, handing him a lunchbox she prepared especially for him. Dolan leaves the village, and on his way to the swamp, he explains that the lizards used to interact with the inhabitants of Verum, but stopped appearing, which raised concerns among everyone. Thus, Dolan volunteered to investigate what happened. Upon reaching the swamp, he notices that the power of the earth elementals is strong, while the water element is weakening, which has made it impossible for the lizards to live there. At that moment, he recalls a prediction made by his tutor and becomes more alert to his surroundings, as she is never wrong in her intuitions. Dolan hears a noise coming from the vegetation and quickly draws his sword to defend himself. When the creature appears, he discovers it is a Lamia, a snake girl. The Lamia questions what to do with him now that he has invaded her area and tries to use seductive movements she learned from her mother. But Dolan is confused, finding it strange. Tired, she explains that she doesn't intend to fight, but soon another monster appears, trying to attack her off guard. Dolan acts quickly, protecting her and taking her to a safe place. She asks what that was, and Dolan explains that it is an earth elemental that has lost control. He mentions that he used to see lizards in the swamp until they all disappeared. Believing the earth elemental to be the cause of the lizard's disappearance, Dolan recalls an earthquake that occurred in the region, affecting the elementals. During the conversation, the girl introduces herself as Selena and says she is capable of using magic. Dolan then suggests they fight together, but Selena reminds him that Lamias are earth monsters, and her magic won't do much damage to the elemental. However, she remembers her racial spell, which might work against the earth elemental. Thus, they begin working together. In the middle of the battle, Selena wonders if she will really be able to fight alongside Dolan, as they have just met and do not trust each other. Noticing his signal, she feels encouraged, and the two launch their attack, with Selena casting a spell against the earth elemental, while Dolan uses draconic magic on his sword, slicing the creature in half. Selena is relieved but ends up being buried by the monster's sand, leaving her a bit upset. Dolan goes to her to check if she's okay and takes the opportunity to thank her for her help, as without her magic, he wouldn't have been able to defeat the creature. They then head to a cave together to find shelter. While in the cave, Selena notices that Dolan is not afraid of her, and he explains that she is different from the Lamias he knows, as they are usually more cautious and aggressive toward humans. Dolan asks what she's doing there, as there are no Lamia villages in the region. Selena explains that Lamias have a rule. They must go out to find a husband when they turn 17, as their race is composed only of women, and in rare exceptions, some give birth to boys. She continues, saying that the Lamia race originated when a human woman was cursed, and this curse was passed on, causing other women to be born half snake, half human. Moreover, all their body fluids contain venom, and they must choose a strong husband who can withstand the venom, otherwise the man might die. Upon hearing this, Dolan realizes that they indeed face more difficulties than other races in finding a partner, given that they follow all these rules. After preparing the food, Dolan serves the dish to Selena and shares that he used to eat with his family around the hot pot in winter. Selena, in turn, observes Dolan's gentle smile as he talks about his family and realizes that he truly loves them very much. At that moment, Dolan realizes that the lonely dragon he once was no longer exists. Noticing his reflective look, Selena asks if something is wrong, and Dolan replies that it's nothing major, just reflecting on how she is right in saying that he truly loves his family. The next morning, they prepare to say goodbye. Dolan says he will return to his village, while Selena informs him that she will head south in search of a husband. Thus, they part ways, but not for long. In the middle of the journey, Selena is approached by two men who come closer to warn her of the dangers of traveling alone. She, however, reassures the two, saying she is stronger than she appears. Taking a closer look at the girl, the two men notice that, instead of legs, she has a snake tail. Startled upon realizing she is a Lamia, they run off, terrified. Meanwhile, Meguro explains that magical potions differ from common medicine as they are made with magically infused ingredients. He emphasizes that extra caution is needed when preparing them, as any mistake could result in a fatal chemical reaction. Meguro then scolds Dolan, who fails in trying to make a magic potion. Ari tries to comfort him, telling him not to feel sad, as even though he isn't very good with potions, he has an extremely sharp eye for medicinal herbs and is very handsome in her eyes. Hearing this, he thanks her for the compliment, but admits he has great difficulty following complex recipes, so he still has a lot of room for improvement. Upon saying this, Meguro begins to analyze Ayer's mixture and finding no issues, dismisses her. Dolan, however, stays there and recalls that during his time living with a dragon, these remedies weren't even necessary for survival, which explains his lack of skill with delicate things. Meguro then reminds Dolan that his offensive magic is really very good, but he still needs to improve a lot in magical medicine. She reassures him, saying there's no need to rush, as the obstacles he now faces are what will make him evolve and grow as a person. After training, everyone gathers to eat. But before the meal, Dolan and the others give thanks to an entity called Mile, a goddess he hasn't seen in a long time. As he leaves, he runs home, and on the way, he encounters Me, a bovine demi-human who shares her milk with all the village inhabitants. She offers him a cup, and he accepts before heading to Albert, his fencing instructor. Upon arriving, Dolan apologizes for being late, but Albert understands since he was training with Meguro. As he greets the children, Dolan looks into the depths of the vegetation and senses the presence of a monster. He waits until nightfall and returns to the same place, carrying a lantern. Entering the forest, he finds the monster, which, in reality, was Celine all along. Dolan asks what she's doing there, but instead of answering, she covers herself and asks him not to look at her at that moment. He refuses, saying it would be a waste not to appreciate her beauty, which doesn't lessen just because he's looking. Surprised by his indifference, Celine asks him to show at least a bit of shame. Dolan explains that desiring beautiful things is a natural instinct, and for that reason, he believes there's nothing shameful about it. Celine slaps him, and he quickly apologizes, realizing he spoke tactlessly. She says it's okay and asks him to forget the incident. Dolan brings up the topic again, asking what she's doing there, as he thought she had gone south in search of a husband. Celine explains that this was her plan, but that all the men ran away upon realizing she was a Lamia. Decided, she resolved to return near the village where Dolan lived, with the intention of finding him. She tells him that, despite finding it frightening to interact with humans, she tried to overcome this barrier, but, in the end, everyone fled from her in terror. Dolan says he hoped to see her again, and is happy it happened so soon. With this happiness, he proposes she come live with him, as he has a plan to help her. Celine remembers that she is a monster, and would therefore end up scaring humans. Dolan explains that in his village there are already many beast people and demi-humans, so everyone is used to unusual figures, and despite the initial mistrust, he believes Celine will soon gain everyone's trust with her gentleness and Lamia skills. Additionally, Dolan admits that her presence would make his life much more enjoyable, but he quickly realizes this sounded like flirting. The girl, in turn, reciprocates the comment, saying that she will also have a lot of fun living by his side. She then asks him to share some of his life energy, saying it was the best she's ever tasted. Dolan says she can receive it whenever she wants, once they are living together. He extends his hand to her and passes some of his energy. The next day, the village captain and some villagers examine monster tracks, deducing it to be a Lamia, a dangerous and powerful being. They hold a meeting with the village chief, and one of the men questions whether the Lamia is truly evil, as she leaves offerings for the villagers. The captain insists they all focus on killing her, ignoring any good deeds she's done. The village chief asks for calm, as he believes the Lamia is too powerful for them to face alone, and suggests they ask for reinforcements from the capital. When Dolan learns of the villagers' reaction, he realizes his plan to integrate Celine failed. But he believes that if they come to know her true nature, they will change their minds. Meguro reprimands Captain Balin, affirming that the Lamia has been kind by leaving offerings, which, to her, means something important. She asks them to wait, as, soon enough, the Lamia will be among them. In the middle of the meeting, they are interrupted by Ira, who arrives to show the results of the divinations. Meguro then informs them that the Lamia's appearance is actually a sign of good luck, reinforcing that they should wait to see what the story reveals. Dolan gets excited and goes to Celine so they can proceed with the final phase of the plan. He explains that the villagers seem less cautious and that the biggest threat would be an elimination squad, which is out of the question for now. The next day, Balin and other important figures from the village meet to discuss the defense against the Lamia, although they are acting somewhat apprehensively. Dolan observes these same people he plans to use in the final phase of the plan, as the garrison is the village's greatest strength. Besides Balin, they are accompanied by the priestess Leticia, a follower of the goddess Mile and the goddess's messenger, capable of deeming Celine ill-intentioned. Celine watches everything from a distance, but remembers her conversation with Dolan the previous night when he said she would only need to save him at the right moment. During training, a guard informs the captain that he has sighted the Lamia. Dolan finds it strange, as he has not yet given Celine the signal to act. Looking closer, he realizes that the presence is of a giant bear, not a Lamia. The captain orders everyone to flee, but Balin's son trips, and the bear lunges at him. Dolan tries to protect him, but Celine runs to save them and drives the bear away with her cursed eyes. Balin orders them to step away, but Dolan defends Celine, stating he is not ungrateful to those who help him. Balin asks if it was she who left offerings, and she confirms. Letitia then intervenes, saying she received a message from the goddess Mile, explaining that Celine is not evil. Letitia then asks everyone to live in harmony with the girl. Upon opening her eyes, Celine faints due to her injuries, and when she wakes up, is given a house to live alone. Balin takes the opportunity to thank her for saving his son, and Dolan welcomes her to the village. These were the first 2 episodes of the anime. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and comment what you thought. Peace.